Good?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, welcome back to the TCS studio. More football. Man, I guess it's March now. It's getting ready to say February, but we're actually into March. Will and I are going to break down some more stuff from spring practice. Tigers looking to build some momentum, have another great season. And in this segment, Will, we're going to talk about the new faces. You guys always want to hear about the great recruiting class, the guys that are here, early enrollees, how they're doing. And, you know, we've heard some good things about a number of these guys already from Coach Sweeney, from Tony Elliott, from other players. So let's talk a little bit about some of the guys that we've heard really positive things about. And I guess let's start at running back, because obviously that's one of the positions. Obviously, Lynn Jay's coming back. He's planning to be the guy. You know, he mentioned, somebody asked him the other day how those guys were doing. He's like, oh, you know, they're doing real good mat drills and coming on. You know, in a couple of years, those guys are going to be really good. And I'm like, I got news for you, Lynn Jay. They're going to be good this year, not in a couple of years. You know, Lynn Jay's going to be the guy starting out, but he's going to have plenty of competition.
Yeah.
Tony raved about one of the guys yesterday, and it wasn't the running back we thought he might rave about first. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, he raved about Phil Maffa, the big 215-pound back, that a guy that we know is physical, and that he was going to be, you know, Clemson was really excited about getting him because he can bring a little extra at the point of attack. But what he showed yesterday, which Tony kind of said they knew, but it was good to see, was his explosiveness. So they went a little good on good, live ball. Coaches got off the field and they kind of let him go at it. And he ended up breaking a long run and taking it to the house for a touchdown. So the coaches were excited about that because they knew it was there, but to see it on the field with that talented defense and him go do that against that talented defense that Clemson has, they're really excited about him. So he was a guy that you could tell Tony, he doesn't coach the running backs anymore, but you could tell he was excited when he saw that long run being broken off.
Yeah, people always want comparisons. I think we may have a little thunder lightning in this class, but this thunder has lightning as well, and he's bigger than the James Davis. So I think, you know, he's a back we really haven't had around here in a while. And then, of course, Shipley also getting some positive comments. He does have the lightning, and he's also known. The good news is both these guys are known for being really good catching the ball out of the backfield. That's one of the things Shipley's very, very good at as well. So both of those guys, we've heard some very positive things from in the first 5 days.
Yeah, Shipley, as Tony said, and I quote, he's running, he said, don't forget about Will Shipley. He's running around 100 miles an hour. So just give you an idea that he's doing his thing. And I think what it was, Tony's like, everybody kind of knows they expect this from Will Shipley. So, but there was some, I think maybe Clemson fans he knows out there don't really know about Phil Maffa maybe. And so he wanted to let people know, hey, look, not only we got Will Shipley, who's this great, outstanding guy, but we got this other guy too. And Dabo talked about it on recruiting day when they signed him. Remember, Robert? He talked about how they had that thunder and lightning again, and they were really excited about having both those guys in one class and what they potentially can do.
Yeah, so the future at running backs already loaded depth chart, even though they lost Travis, and now they add these two guys. So running back future looks very bright. Let's move to tight end, and we talked a little bit about this in a previous video, but Jake, I think it's Briningstool. Will thinks it's Brenningstool, so we'll find out.
Jake will tell us.
Sure. Jake actually retweeted one of our stories that Gavin did on him earlier today. So Gavin was here, he could tell us the exact pronunciation. But anyway, Jake got some raves from Tony Elliott yesterday.
He did. Tony's excited about him because, you know, Tony's moved to the tight end position to coach, and he's excited about what this guy's already shown in the 5 days they've had practice. And he says he's a baller, he's a player, and they're really anxious to see, you know, as he keeps going on, how much he progresses. Granted, he's a freshman, and there's things he's going to make freshman mistakes, and he's got things to learn. But that's the beauty of spring football, and when these freshmen, these early enrollees come in, it allows them to kind of get adjusted slowly, and you kind of throw them in. You're not just throwing them in the summer, like when everything's just like they're going real fast because they got to get ready for the season opener. In the spring, they can take their time and work a little bit more. But this guy, they're just amazed by how he's come in, and he's almost like football ready, if you will. And he's a guy that they think maybe if things keep progressing the way it is, he's a guy that could possibly help them this coming fall. So they're excited about him and his progression and what he can give to the offense.
All right, let's stay on the offense. Dabo talked a little bit about this the other day. You know, he's like, guys, we're in a whole different class now, a whole different league as far as receiver goes this year versus some of the concerns they had last year with Ross out, Nagata out, Ladson hurt, all these guys. And one of the reasons is the freshman class coming in, and the Collins guys, not twins, Bo and Dakari, we've heard really good things. Obviously, Bo has the relationship, the familiarity with DJ. They've already got the chemistry. Taller receiver, brings another, set of tools to Coach Elliott's toolbox when he's out there calling plays. But we've heard good things about Bo and Dakari.
Yeah, and these are two guys that, as you mentioned, Clemson is like loaded at wide receiver. So again, you don't really have to just like counting on these guys right off the bat. You can kind of bring them in slowly, and I'm sure at some point, Dabo and Tony and with Tyler will figure a way to get those guys on the field and get them the reps and experience they need so they can be ready when their time comes. But these are two guys that are excellent athletes, like all Clemson receivers are. Bo Collins is obviously a guy that we've heard a lot about leading up to him signing with Clemson, and then obviously his, like you mentioned, his relationship with DJ. So it's pretty exciting to know, if you look at what Clemson has at wide receiver, that they just keep stacking the box up. They just keep saying, okay, yeah, we got a 5-star and a 5-star here. Let's just bring in a couple more, just so we have them there. So when Justin leaves and when Nagata leaves, and you don't know what kind of year Nagata and them are going to have with Justin Ross being in the slot. And so, yeah, they're juniors and they have another year of eligibility, but they could leave if they wanted to after this year. So you got to be ready, right? You got to have a guy that you can plug and play. And I think they feel like they got it. As Dabo said the other day, with all these 12 guys that are already on campus, he says, I really believe, and I'm not just saying this, but I really believe we hit a home run with all of them, and we feel like all these guys are going to have good careers at Clemson.
All right, let's flip to the defensive side. We're not going to talk about every player, but we're going to talk just some of the ones we've heard really good things about. Trotter, linebacker.
Yes.
He's a name that's kind of stood out from what we've heard from the coaches, and we also heard some really good things from James Gowski the day he talked to us. So those guys, he's just obviously comes with all this ingrained stuff from his dad and the knowledge and all of that, but he's just an athlete. He's going to be another guy that's going to help the defense.
Yeah, what was his dad's nickname at the NFL? The Hammer. And so everything we hear, he's going to bring the hammer too, a lot like his dad. And so, he's going to be another guy, maybe, to be honest with you, a guy bringing in that maybe is a little more football ready. And of course, Brent Venables' defensive scheme, we know it's always the most difficult for linebackers to learn. But this guy seems like, they think maybe he's going to be a little more ready to kind of come in and, maybe contribute a little bit earlier than some of the other guys have been able to. And maybe that goes back to his IQ, his pedigree, coming with a dad who played in the NFL. He understands things. It's different when you watch football with your dad, who was an NFL linebacker, and he points out things. You can learn that as a kid, and it's easier. So you understand what a defensive scheme's doing, or what you're supposed to do in this position, what this guy over here is supposed to do, and that helps you adjust to the speed of the game. And really, that's probably the only thing he's going to be able to have to do for the most part, I think, is probably just learn to adjust to the speed, because obviously going from high school to college is a big difference.
Yep. And I think he's just a different athlete. Clemson's got some experience at linebacker, and they've had some guys that have, executed the system well. I think a lot of fans and people feel like they could be a little more athletic at linebacker. Trotter's one of those guys that helps get you there. Nate Wiggins coming in, big time need. Dabo even hinted they might even go to the portal, but we'll see whether that happens with the losses to transfers they've had at corner. But he's another name we've heard some good things about.
Yeah, like Dabo, I'm a guy that's a glass half full, not half empty. So with Darian Kendrick leaving, the thing that it does is it gives a guy like Nate Wiggins an opportunity to get more reps. Yep. And that can only but help, when you get a guy who comes in the spring and is going to get some real good, solid reps. And that's going to pay dividends when he plays during the course of the season. And as we saw last year, there's no guarantees on who's going to stay healthy or anything. So you've got to have those guys ready to play. And so here's a guy that comes in with a ton of credentials. What is he, 6'2", 190 pounds? He's a big guy.
He's a perfect athlete they like to have.
Absolutely. Can go up, was a basketball star in high school too. So they really like the potential of him. And so now him getting these reps going up against the E.J. Williams and the Justin Rosses in practice and all
got
that,
talent.
that's going to help him be ready when he does have to be called on during the season.
All right, we've also got a new safety all the way from Texas that Gavin and I used to always talk about. Why are we covering all these kids from Texas? They're not going to come to Clemson. Well, Andrew did come to Clemson. He's coming in at safety, one of the positions where there's a lot of guys returning, but probably one of the biggest problem areas we saw last year. And this kid's coming in as a stud, so it's going to be interesting to see how he works his way up that depth chart.
Yeah, especially early on here in spring, and then when they get into summer workouts and camp, see where he's at. I'm interested to see where we know where he is right now, where he's at on that depth chart come first day of fall practice. You know what I'm saying? Fall practice. Because you're right, he has all the size, the speed, all the things you look for in a safety. How fast has he learned the defense and understand his job? And last year, you want to know the truth, Robert, it wasn't lack of skill for the guys last year. It was a lack of not doing their job, doing too much. We saw Landon Sanders do that a lot last year, where he just tried to ad-lib a situation. You can't do that, you know, or especially when you play a team like Ohio State and guys like that. You can't do that, or you're going to get burned. And so he did that a little too much last year, made coaches a little uncomfortable at times. He's an absolute great player, and so now you've got this young guy who comes in. And if he's as talented as Sanders is and these other guys, but maybe he's more technically sound, he can move up the ladder quickly, and that's what the coaches are hoping for, because a guy like that could really push the others to be better, and that's what they're kind of looking for as they continue on through spring here.
Yeah, and they're looking for Charleston and Thornton, those other guys, to continue to improve. So a lot of bodies there. They just got to figure out which guys can play out there consistently. Obviously, Turner, they feel good about. I did forget and apologize, Ryan. You know, we do have our sweatshirts that we bought up at the Hornets Nest restaurant in Damascus, Maryland.
I wear it all the time.
I made a couple of trips up there. I was the only Clemson person up there for Brian's announcement, so we do apologize. They did talk about Brian, I think, or excuse me, Ryan. The first question, I can't remember where it was, Dabo or Coach Elliott got on him, was like, oh, you know, is he ready to? Is he ready to be the starter? You know, 4 days into camp, and Dabo's like, whoa, slow down a little bit.
Dabo's like, hold on a second, hold on. You don't count on a freshman on the offensive line to come in and be a starter right off the bat. Dabo, I think the question was, do you think by the middle of the season he could work his way into starter? And Dabo's like, hold on, no, we're not counting on that, because the game is just so fast, and the center position has so much to learn. More than any other position outside of the quarterback, the center has so much to learn. And so you're throwing all this out, and at the same time, he's having to go up against these 4 or 5-star talented defensive linemen, and he's trying to read the calls and the protections and things of that nature and call it out. There's a lot to absorb and take in. The speed is really fast. Dad was like, you can't expect that. You can't go in there with that kind of expectation on a freshman. You have to let him come in, and that's why we were talking about earlier in our earlier video about Rayburn kind of like coming in and he's taken off, and so that's a big thing for Clemson, because now if Rayburn can continue to progress and he's the guy they pinpoint coming out of the spring as a possible starter there, now that gives you the opportunity to bring Linthicum along slowly and get him that experience he needs, instead of just throwing them out there into the fire.
Yep. So that's just a flavor for you. Hopefully that gets you a little bit excited, because there is a ton of talent. I've written on the board about how excited I am about this class, and we're getting to start to hear some great things. We'll hear a lot more the next month or so as we go to the spring game. And so we'll continue to bring you guys some updates on these freshmen. We'll have some great pictures after Friday's practice of all the freshmen from our great photographer, Bart. So stay tuned to TCI for that. Stay tuned to the Clemson Insiders. We bring you the most complete coverage of Clemson football and Clemson recruiting.